Hi everyone, there is no one left in the lobby, so I guess we'll start now. Welcome to this workshop that will be presented by Anastasiia and Noel from CartONG. I'm gonna quickly tell you the few rules, if we can say rules, for this workshop. So please, for this workshop to be the most interactive as possible, you can introduce yourself in the chat. So your name, where you're from, your organization. You can use the chat to interact with other people. And please, you can use the Q&A button to ask questions. So during both presentations. And you can also, there is the option that you can like a question, so the question can pop up at the top if you agree with this question and you want to know the answer. I will so now leave the mic to Anastasiia. So Anastasiia, you can present yourself.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all today. My name is Anastasiia. I'm Information Management and Web Development Specialist at CartONG. I will be one of the presenters today, and I'm giving the floor to Noel to present yourself.
Hi everybody, my name is Noel. I'm the Mobile Data Collection Specialist in the team at CartONG, and I will be presenting the second part of the presentation this afternoon.
Thank you, Noel. Sure, we can start. The topic of our presentation and the topic of our workshop for today is becoming a PowerBI buff, plugging into cloud databases, or some tips and tricks that will improve the user experience. It will be mostly on backend and frontend. I will present the first part. We will go a bit about the content. We will start with PowerBI introduction, very quick one. We are assuming that most of you are already using PowerBI for some of your projects. In case of not, I hope you will find this information useful. The first part will be related to me. There is a data connection, type of data sources, especially we will focus mostly on cloud-based services, and we will have some summary comparison. For Noel, we will present it mostly PowerBI user interface tips and tricks, and the most interesting one, maybe multi-language dashboard. And we will start with PowerBI. What is actually PowerBI? In a very easy way, it's an intelligent tool which help you analyze, visualize, and share data. Very simple one. A simple one. There is three main concepts we can see right now on the screen. Why we highlighted only two of them? Because we will focus, or maybe touch slightly, because it's a really huge topic. Data preparation, which is related to the first part, and visualization, which is related to Noel. And PowerBI is not the only one tool. There is tool sets. Yes, the first one is a PowerBI desktop. It's actually a desktop application which you can download, install on your computer, and start to work by yourself. This one, and you see already it's highlighted in red one, because this kind of tool which fit our purpose during the workshop, we will use mostly during the workshop for connecting the data sets, for showing you some tips and tricks with the visuals. But just to let you know, or maybe to remind you, I showed them most of you maybe use already, there is PowerBI Pro service. There is website application where you need to log in, and you can do much more. But it's a bit limited in case if you want to connect your data set initially. Yes, you can collaborate, you can share your results, and PowerBI Mobile, where you can access anywhere your reports you created with PowerBI. This is a quick introduction. Also, PowerBI desktop workflow, just to let you know that during this webinar, I will demo all the tips and tricks. Just right now to give you some overview. The data preparation will be done by using Power Query, and you already see it on the slide. Power Query is a component. This is actually components. When you click on it, the additional window is open, which help you to access and start to manipulate with your data. Yes, this is the main goal of our workshop for today. We miss the part for data modeling. Sorry, someone accessing. Hello, can you please mute yourself? Hello, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, as Colleen mentioned, if any question, we will have by the end the section with question, and we can reply all the question. Hello. Okay, data modeling, we will skip it. And the next one, it will be data visualization. PowerBI, it's another component. I will show you everything, how it's working. Just not worry about this right now too much. What about the data source? Yes, what kind of data source we can use? It could be Excel, it could be CSV format, JSON, any format, the databases. This is a lot of possibilities you can do with PowerBI. Also, if you work with data connection workflow, is a Kobotoolbox owner, you can also connect it to them. Well, the first example we will use during the workshop is Excel file. I assume that most of you, they use the Excel file for collecting data, not only the local file that you keep on your laptop, but actually the file you hosted and store on one of the cloud-based services. It could be Dropbox, Google Sheets, OneDrive, and Nextcloud. We would like to ask you to answer on one question. There is a kind of interest. Which kind of this storage system do you use to process and collect data? There will be the link in the chat. We can use this link. And if it would be possible to answer on the question, I will see on, you will see on the results on your screen, and also I will see the results. Colleen, can you confirm it, please, that it's active on your side, please?
Yes, I just found a link. Can you all copy and paste the link in your browser in a new window?
Actually, the percentage will not change, it's just static images, but it will change on your browser if you're using the link. Yeah, you start to reply. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see the percentage. Yeah, I see that the most answer. It is kind of interesting just to be sure that the information that we prepare for this webinar, it will be fit your expectations. And yeah, most of you replied to Google Sheets, some of them OneDrive, another one SharePoint. Yeah, the database is Kobotoolbox. Okay, we will cover some of them, but not all of them after the workshop. If you have any additional questions and we will not cover during the workshop, you can ask them or you can email us. Thank you so much. I will stop it. I hope everyone already replied. The winner right now is the Google Sheet, and actually when I will start the demo. Thank you so much for your reply. And starting with the Excel file. Before you start and host your file on Google Sheets, here on Dropbox or Nextcloud, any cloud-based service you use, you will need to prepare your data to connect it. There are some tips. I will not show it right now, but actually need to be sure. Do not use merge columns. It will be not recognized by PowerBI. Rename the columns to add the meaningful and very short names. It will help you to manipulate your data later once you connect it. For each column, add the proper data type. It should be or text, or date, or number. It would be great to have data validation rules. And maybe the most important one, if you format your data as a table. And I will show you later why it's important, because you can select actually not the tabs. It depends how many tabs you have in your Excel sheets, but also it will be interesting to see how you can select this table you created. This is, we will just look through all the 5 steps. I will show you on the demo. You need to host your file in a very easy way. We choose, we'll skip the SharePoint, but actually there is some kind of similarity between all of this. Any additional information we can share later. For OneDrive, you just copy link there is a screenshot. For Google Sheets, you need to select file, publish to the web, and actually access your file. And for OneDrive, there is kind of embedded link. I advise you to copy paste in any notepad where you can modify and to apply some manipulation with your link, because you can not use it in original way you copy paste it. On the second one, yes, we will start with the Dropbox. You see, there is a kind of the link, the long one. And what does it mean is DL by the end, DL equals 0. As actually is your file, this is one of the parameters used in internet. It's not available for downloading from the internet. We need just to change it to 1. If you replace it to 1, this kind of link you can use during the connection to PowerBI. There is no additional steps required for the Google Sheets. You just publish to the web and you can start to work on it. For OneDrive, it's a bit trickier. You need to copy this iframe. I just added a real example. We create a test account where actually you replace ID, yes, like each file that has a specific unique key, name of the file. I need to find this key. What is the name of your file? This is 2 variables, RIS ID and authentication ID. The next one, you need to connect to PowerBI and publish it to the web. Very easy one. Get data web and copy paste your link, your transform it. Yes, not the original one. I will not sign up during the demo because I'm already done it. Just to let you know that you need to choose please do not choose anonymize. Yes, you need to choose basic, enter your username, password, and go next with the steps. Once you connected 3 files we will show today, you will need to be sure that you properly can access data. If there is no problem with OneDrive, actually with SharePoint also, it's not mentioned here, or Google Docs, it could be some tricky stuff with the Dropbox, but we will show it. Yes, and I can start to demo the PowerBI. I will share the screen. I hope you can see the PowerBI, and this is actually a view component which will be presented by, there is empty right now. And how we can access PowerBI? Yes, we just talking. You need to go to transfer data. Transfer data, the additional window will be open where actually can work with your link. I separate and created a separate file. Not sure if you can see it or not. I prepare the link, the transformated link, not the original one. And I start with the Dropbox. I go to the web. I hope it will not take so time. DL equal 1. It means we allow access the data through the internet. It's very important one for the Dropbox. There is not only way how you can do it. We just choose the easiest one to help you to work with your data. And the same data sets, the same Google Sheets data sets used. Maybe to mention a bit about this data, we use data collection form from UNICEF Sense project. It's a women questionnaire where actually when you collect some data about the household, and you have groups, dynamic groups. When you ask how many women you have in your household, if you want to know all the information the women, maybe we want to see the level of anemia of non-pregnant women, some additional information. And we use this data set and we host it in Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Sheet. It's actually the same. Yeah, we create for the Dropbox. I just move it to the groups that we wouldn't want to lose in our data right now. I just created, this is Dropbox. This is how the link once I just connected. Yes, it's not so readable, I know, don't be afraid. I copy paste the Google Docs link. A very easy one. There is no additional transformation needed. I copy paste outputs XLS to be sure that you copy paste XLS by the end. And maybe it makes sense to a bit if I stop sharing and go to my Chrome, just to show you quickly where I hosted all my data set. This is Dropbox. Yes, I'm already connected. I just use share copy link. It's very easy, and you can find all of this information in the presentation later. This is the Google Sheets. I call file, publish to the web. This is my link. And actually you need to use Microsoft Excel just to be aware that because we need in a readable format. And another one, it would be OneDrive, where it actually embedded. This is all was presented. Not sure if you can see it. iframe, you copy paste, and you start to modify your link. And a Kobotoolbox. It will be discussed later during the workshop. A couple of words about this woman form questionnaire. I told you it's not the simple. The form it's simple in itself, but it has two tabs. The first one is the household information. There is only 3 surveys. Yes, where we have a camp name, cluster, and some specific unique ID. And also there is loops, or we call it groups. I highlighted in different colors that we have only 3 households. And for each household, we have a different set of women. For one household, we have 2. We survey 2 women, and for another one, it's 4. And what kind of questions we have. Why it was important to show you how it will be, this information as we see right now, how it will be look like in the Power BI. I coming back to the Power BI for the Dropbox. I mentioned it will be tricky. I see the loops and woman form. It's actual name of the tabs. I won't recommend to use one. Please use the table name. As I mentioned, it will be very important to format your data as a table, because if you use it a table, you have less empty fields. You have already formatted, which are acceptable to Power BI. I select table 1, table 2. I connected to it. I hope it won't take time. I copy paste and then add it to another groups. We call Google Docs. This is Google Docs. And no, we cannot leave it like table 1. As I mentioned, table 1, just only 3 surveys. This is household information. At table 2, this is will be women groups. Yes, they link to each other, have a specific key, and they link. This is kind of form we use sometimes during data collection. I hope you too. And the next one, I will collect the file hosted in OneDrive. I copy paste the link. I replace it. You need to follow the template I shared before in the presentation. There is ID, a certification ID, and actually you can use, you connect to any account on your OneDrive. Again, it's present you the same way. In this case, OneDrive and Google Doc, they looks a bit similar. You need to choose table 1, table 2. This is properly formatted table. I choose OK. I will wait. And I will create a separate group just to show you that this one related to OneDrive. Again, this is household information. We use the same data sets which will host it. It's already exists, household information OneDrive. And this was women groups, level of anemia, folic acid, supplement, and any other questions you can use. What was the Dropbox? Yeah, it doesn't seem so readable for us. Here we need to apply any additional steps. I need to select Excel. I select it. It doesn't seem so weird. And I see there is actually the list of my tabs. Name, woman form, loops, table 1, table 2. What I should do? The first one, I need to copy, paste, duplicate, yes, to have a 2 copy, because I need to have the same format as I have for Google Sheets. In my original datasets, I have household information, and I also have the women groups. It should be the same for the Dropbox. It's how can I do it? The first one, I filter, yes. On this kind of data, I need only table 2, household information. I filter it. What does it mean? You see there's clickable link. This is actually where all my data right now collected. I don't need the rest of the columns. I need to remove it. I selected the column and I choose remove other columns. I only need this one. I will show you why. I just leave it the column data. I click table and all of my 3 surveys there appeared. Yes, all the 3 survey for household. I will do the same for the second one. And we'll mention household information Dropbox. For the second one, it will be I use the filters. I select table 2 because women groups collect in the table 2. Again, I don't need any other columns. I just select the data, where's actually data, yes, and I remove other columns. I remove it and I just click on the table. And how many I have? I have 8 women survey for this kind of data. This is how we work with the OneDrive Dropbox and how actually right now you can start to work with your data. Just to give you a bit maybe tricks and tips in case if you're sure that your data will be loaded, just to improve the performance of the datasets. To be sure that this actual dataset should be enabled, click enable, load, or disable it. And if you think that the section or camp name will not be used in your dataset, just to remove them. Just click on the column remove, or you can go to the advanced editor. Yeah, so it's where actually you can again remove any data you want. This is actually the name of your column. You remove it and you save it. In this case, it will simplify it. It will save time you later. I will come back quickly to the presentation. If any questions, I will be glad to reply it as soon as possible. I will share my screen. Yes, and I hope you can see the presentation. The next one, because it was also at a huge interest of using Kobotoolbox, as I see from the survey, by using Kobo API. I hope maybe some of you already use API. What does it mean, API, in a very simple word? It is a request. It is HTTP request. When you send through the internet and ask, please, I want to access my form. I want to access my collected data, and I wouldn't want to do anything. It should be done automatically. This is how, what does it mean, the Kobo API? Kobo API, it could be different instance. Yes, it could be UniCR, Ocha, Kobotoolbox. I highlighted the one we use for demo, the Kobotoolbox, and the first one. And if you need any kind of additional information on using the Kobo and documentation, you can find here the link, which you can share later, how to use the Kobo API. What we need to do, the first one, we need to find form ID. Yes, just to connect it to my form, I need to know the key, the name of my form, and there is a unique number. How can I do it? Also, I can use PowerBI. Sorry for switching too much between the screens. I will use my PowerBI. I have the links, which was shared before. And again, I use Get Data Web. I hope it's exciting. And I mentioned, this is my instance, Kobotoolbox. It was all mentioned on the list, just to be sure which one you use during your work. API data format CSV. There is only one form actually located right now in test account. This is ID. This is how you can find actual ID of your form. There is another very simple way how you can do it. We'll come back to presentation. There is also a very useful website. I will recommend it because you can find some tips and tricks there also. How you can get your form ID without connecting to Power BI. The same 3 instances, UniCR, Ocha, Kobotoolbox. Since I'm using Kobotoolbox for the demoing, I selected, yes, we created a separate account, G Power BI, where I click on show the forms. You can the same. This is actual ID of my form right now, and I want to connect it to E. Here's also useful tips and tricks you want to use later. It's out of topic for this workshop, but it's very nice resource. The next one, we need to connect to our form. There is 2 ways how we can do it, connecting to our form. As you know, for example, if we have a camp name in our form, it could be coded like camp 1, camp 2, camp 3. This is what we call codes, yes? And we want to connect it and actually get it the data. There is 2 ways. If you use very simple form without adding additional groups as we have for women form. Yes, you can use this first link with format by the end equal to CSV. It's actually simplify and make your life easier. If you use this link, you already connected to your dataset. You don't need to do anything. In case if in our example, we use a bit more complicated way of the form where we have the first part, we collect information about household. The second one, we have this additional groups. Yes, repeating groups. It's better to connect without format by the end CSV. And I will show you why. I will switch back to Power BI. It will be much easier to present it. I hope you can see my screen. In case of not, please let me know. The first one, I connect with format CSV, connected to my form. Yes, the same way, the same data set. We see we have only one table. Yes, in our case, we need to have household information tab and women tab. If we connect it with format CSV, all information will be in one table. It depends what kind of form do you use in Kobotoolbox. Yes, we have a very simple one. This way will save your time. If in our case, and I will show you to the another group to make our life easier, I will call it Kobotoolbox. One form. Another one, I connected in different format, especially for the case when you have repeating groups or you have a very complex data set. I don't know, we have a lot of multiply choices. It means a lot of transformation, a lot of data cleaning will be coming later. You will choose web. I connected, but here I will need to remove format CSV. I just leave it, the format instance, yes. IPIV1, there is just format, you follow, don't pay attention, what does it mean? Data, and by the end I put code of my data. I connected. It's a bit more trickier. I will show you later. Yeah, you see, it's again with the case we have with the Dropbox. It's not so readable and so meaningful at the first sight. You see it. What I need to do, I need convert it to the table. And any additional information you can find also on Unitier website, I convert it to the table. I have 3 my records, but I cannot access the data. Yes, because I didn't select format CSV. I didn't select the format by the end. This is the list of my columns. Don't be afraid of them. And right now I have my list of the formats, but they still need some cleaning. But how can I get the same format as we have before? Household information, NGONG, and women groups. The first one, I leave it. And the second one, I'm already know where is my groups located. Yeah. I will show you. I will not go. This is actually one column I need, nothing else. I use the control. I just hold it down control and only unique ID, nothing else I needed for this kind of a data set. I remove other columns and I start to explore it. Yes, I just explore it further. I see this is all my women 8 records are recorded before. And I get proper format of a women survey. Yes, this is my how I connect to tables in case if you have a repeating groups. I hope it's clear. If no, we can come back later to it. Stop sharing. And I will go to the presentation. Yes, I'm already mentioned right now. We will look at an example connecting to the code. But sometimes, and especially if you're working with Kobotoolbox, mostly you need to connect it to the labels. Again, to me to be careful here, if you're using dynamic groups and loops inside, this link would be not working. This link would be working in case if you have a simple data set and you need to connect it. I will want connect it during this webinar. You can follow the steps. When you connect it to your Kobo, how can you find, you need to generate this link actually to connect it. So for example, this is my form. I go to the settings, sharing, and this is, it's still loading with time. And this is unique ID, which you need to use when you generate or try to build up your link, yes, for the connection. Because on the screen, you can see, and also you mentioned your instance, yes, which Kobotoolbox you use, which source. Your username, what is your username for our GNG Power BI report, and this unique ID which you copy from your account. And you can connect not to the camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, you can connect to the and the camp name, and all the additional options will be displayed as labels. I'm already mentioned some tips for improving the performance, like enable. It really helps save your time. Depends how many data sets you have, how many resources, because actually you can connect multiply files, not only one. One could be hosted on OneDrive, another one could be hosted on Google Sheet, another one could be hosted somewhere else, to be sure that these tables actually will be using on the displaying the visuals, and you need to enable it. Import or remove not necessary fields, and limit complicated measures and aggregations in your Power BI. Performance analyzer, it's more front end, and yeah, but in case if it's interesting, let us know. Summary comparison is very precise. It's based on our experience, and I'm almost done my part. Yes, we will look through on Dropbox, Google Sheets, OneDrive, and Kobotoolbox. It's much more, but during this workshop, we need, what kind of Power BI skills do you need to have? With you see, I say for Dropbox, Google Sheets, OneDrive basic, but maybe for the Dropbox, you will need to have more advanced, but not much, just to know where to click to explore your data. For Kobotoolbox, it depends how difficult the form itself. Yes, because if it's very simple one, you generate the link, you connect, and that's it. In case it's complicated, a lot of options, multiply selections, connections, and I don't know, groups, you will need time to work on it. And also it's linked to data protection. Yes, how easy you generate the link, how easy you can access your file. For the Google Docs, since it's published to the web, it's not protected so well. That's why it's got just only one. And for the rest, I said the Kobotoolbox would be more secure one this case. For data transformation, it was already mentioned, we have some scores, very precise. Automatic updates, it's not the topic of this workshop, just to let you know that if you want to share and collaborate with your colleague, just to make automatic updates is not so difficult. It could be some problem, but maybe for the Dropbox from our experience. And some recommendations, for example, if you have a very short-term project with a small and not complex database, it's much better to host your Excel file on Dropbox, Google Docs, OneDrive, or SharePoint. It's almost will be almost the same, but for the mid-term and long-term solution, Kobotoolbox would be the best. And thank you so much. I'm done my first part. I hope I'm on time, and we can follow the section with questions and comments.
Thank you so much, Anastasiia, for your presentation. It was very insightful. If you have any questions or comments, please do so. We have plenty of time for it to answer you. And then after the questions, we will take a short break. So you can ask away now.
We have our first question ready from Emil.
This one is, there is any easy way to combine data from different datasets into one data model? If I can share my screen again, sorry for being maybe too quick. Yes. I don't think there is very easy one. In case if you have multiply forms, anyway, you need to connect to each form separately. As you see right now, we connected data model. In data model, we have connection to the Dropbox, we have connection to Google Docs, to OneDrive, and actually to Kobotoolbox. And right now, we need to start to think how we can combine data, yes? And there is a way how to do it. But it's more related how to create relationships and etc. There's the way as we're working with the CartONG. It's better to have one centralized form to avoid too many multiply connections, and to keep it just for easy managing later, for easy maintenance later if any changes come up. Because in case of any fields will be changed, it will affect Power BI. In Power BI, you will need to adapt it to your new settings. I hope I will reply in the question or not.
Yeah, I might just add to that one then. So just to confirm that when you're connecting to multiple data sources, it's the same whether those data sources are local on your computer or whether they're cloud ones, like Anastasiia has demonstrated today. So really what it means is you create joins between tables in Power BI the same way you would any other tables, and that's a whole different topic that we're not kind of going into today and how you can make those joins. But just to say that if you have an Excel on Dropbox and you have a form on Kobo, you make the connections to them completely separately, and the fact that you've made one connection to Dropbox doesn't in any way complicate your other connection to Kobo. Power BI saves each one of them completely separately, so there's no issues at all in that. It's just about whether you know enough of your own data to make the join. And if that's a question that you do want to go into further, it's a different topic, but we can share with you some resources if that's something that's of particular interest. And the other small thing that I wanted to say was, I know that I mean, for me as well, this is also some parts of this a new topic. It's a lot of information taken in a short period of time. So if there's any particular part of what's being presented that you'd like to go back to and ask a question or see again, and just to understand a part of the process, for example, if you've tried and there's a part of the process you got stuck with, we can look at that specifically if that's of interest.
Sure, thank you so much, Noel. Definitely. Maybe it was, yeah, as mentioned, Noel, it was too many information. We just want to present in the way how you can connect it, but you can do as much more as possible. And just only one solution, which was selected by us as the easiest way to present it for you. We can try and come back later. I just want to show you, yes, once you connect it, I just loaded quickly. I loaded all the data right now in my table. And actually, if I go to the relationship, yes, yeah, this is a really complex relationship and I need to set it up. I need to manage the relationship. The next step, in case if you're interested, we can look later on this. I will handing over to you, Noel, maybe to the part with the presentation, or in case if we have any other questions.
Hi, we still have time. There is a question from Inje. Would you recommend to clean prepare data in Power BI, or would you recommend to do it with another program? And if so, which one? And after that, we have another question I will tell you after.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the question, actually. It was very interesting. Yes. I mentioned at the beginning, in case if you're working with Excel or your form, it's much better to clean your data before you connect it to Power BI. In Power BI, anyway, you will start to have some cleaning, but very simple one, or it makes your life easier. What kind of tips and tricks you can do? Yes, I will share quickly the presentation. Okay, we can see it, yes, still. Once you load your file, it's not only linked to the Excel file itself. It could be done to the form, yes. If you work with the Excel, put the proper data type. Yes, Power BI by default it automatically recognize or it's text or it's date or it's number, but sometimes it could be confusion. That's why just remember properly formatted in Excel. Data validation rules, yes, if you have a cascading selection to be sure that the proper location was selected. In the form, if we're talking about the XLS form which is hosted on Kobotoolbox, yes, it's good to have a cascading selection. It's good to be checked that the with enumerators, yes, and someone who's collecting data, he enter number, not the text inside of your form, just to have a proper data validation rules for each of the fields. And format for the Excel, it's format your data as a table. It will be perfect. And once you select it, it will connect it how many rows you have. In case if you're not formatted as a table, yes, what could happen? It could happen you have 1024 rows and just only 3 of them, there is your collected data. You have a lot of empty rows which you don't need to use and you will need to clean it in Power BI. You can also clean it that in Power BI. Just would be my recommendation from my experience to clean your data as much as possible before connected to Power BI. And in Power BI, apply all the necessary changes you need. Just to add calculations, measures, and proper relation between the tables, because sometimes Power BI, this is one of the limitations, it's not possible automatically displayed. I will come back quickly here. As you see, this is actually is not correct one. If I manage the relationships, it's not correct one. I need to go and one by one to really to be sure that all the Power BI connection, because I have two forms, just one example, quickly one. I have this one, household information Dropbox, and I have this Dropbox, it should be, I will check on a women groups. Yes, I need to select this. This is actually key, where these two forms, they connect into each other. And this one should be done manually. Thank you so much. If I clearly answer on the question.
Yes, maybe we can take a short break and we'll answer the last question at the before we start the presentation. So we can take a short break and we'll be back in 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Hi, everyone. Back from the short break. I'll let Anastasiia answer the last question from the first presentation. I'll send it back to you so you can see it, Anastasiia. It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to read the question. I hope everyone can see it. I like the straightforward data pipeline from Kobo server directly in Power BI. This the part was presented when you just generate the link, and it's already connected to your form where you can see the old data. And during the workshop, we discussed it more how to clean the structure. Yes, how to prepare the structure to work, not the data itself. Yes, if there is some, my understanding of this question, it was some issue with during the data collection and you want manually cleaning after all. And there's the question, I wonder if you have how to insert a manual data cleaning stage between collection and dashboard visualization. Just let us know, please, in the chat if I understood the question correct. It's not on the data cleaning structure, yes, what kind of columns you want to use for your visual. This is more if the mistakes was done in the data and you want actually clear it in Power BI. There is no easy way to do it. Yes, yes. Thank you so much for confirmation. Yeah, there is no easy way to do it in Power BI, honestly. We have some work around, but I don't think it will be working for the context. In case of the Kobo, if the data was collected by the online form in the web browser, yes, Anketo form, we have additional script, yes, which send email that the data was collected. There is a link to your data. If you want to apply any data to this link, please follow it. Yes, like it's give you the possibility to update, but it depends what kind of access do you have to your Kobo. It's better to have data cleaning in the Kobo, not on Power BI. Maybe I was confusing a bit. Yes, in Power BI, you can clean data structure, the columns, but not the data itself, if there is any rows. You can, if you have access to your Kobo account, you can clean the data and will be automatically updated in Power BI by using automatic refresh. And in this case, you will not use Power BI desktop, which I was working today. For this case, for automatic refresh, you need to use Power BI Pro service. Let us know, please, if I answer your question. We have another one, no? Another question. Yeah, I understood your question. Yeah. Fine. In this case, it's web development. Because I'm actually working on the, you will need to write a web application or something like this, like to have a pipeline between the Kobo and between the Power BI, where the form was actually you log in and you can modify and clean your data. It's limitation Power BI, and Power BI just create report visualization, but not data cleaning. If you like, we can discuss it later. You can send email to me. Yeah, it's more for the web development and adding additional component. Yeah, most welcome. But there is some workaround, yes, but maybe they're not so precise and not so clear, but it's there's possible to do. Do we have any other questions, Colleen? Sorry, if you can help me, please.
Yeah, sure. There is just one now from Emil.
Yeah,
can you see it?
Yeah.
You have 1 minute to answer.
Any tips and tricks on how to merge in an aggregated form? It's a bit tricky for me to understand the questions. How to, in an aggregated form? If you could clarify, you mean the form with the groups? I don't know, in an aggregated form, it's been different. Or maybe I will take your time Colleen. We will give a space to Noel, and I will think how can I reply to this question. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much,
Thank you so
Noel.
much, everyone.
Noel, you can start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I will share my screen now. So I think you see the presentation in full screen. So yeah, I mean, just one thing, because there was one question there about the cleaning, and because Anastasiia mentioned kind of workarounds without using very high-tech tools. It's not really a specific advice, but just something to generally think about. And that in the previous organization that I was working with, we did something where the data was pulled down and it was stored on a Dropbox type system, but it was stored in 2 copies. And the reason for that was that there was the raw data and then a clean data. And that way that you always had the 2 after it was cleaned, you could always compare between the 2. It was a bit of a complicated setup and beyond the scope of what we're looking at today, but just to let you know that that kind of if the data cleaning is a big thing in the project, and there's a lot to, it's a very regular thing that needs done, and it needs to be done quite well. Having that kind of parallel system is definitely worth considering. But yeah, the topic for this afternoon then is on the tips and tricks for the user interface for the front end of Power BI. So we're going to be looking at a very different aspect, and especially just some different techniques that I've used in a couple of previous dashboards, especially for dashboards where you need what is on the screen to either appear or disappear depending on the user who's looking at the dashboard or the language that they want to see it in. So, I mean, like the previous, feel free to send questions to the chat at any point during the presentation. If I cannot get to them at the time, I will try to get to them at the end. Also, I usually say when I do these presentations that I sometimes have a strong accent. If I say something that you don't get straight away, let me know. I won't be offended. I'll be happy to repeat. Feel free to make your questions if you speak French or Spanish, or yeah, maybe even a little bit of Arabic if Anastasiia helps me out. Feel free to make questions in your own language, and if my response isn't fully clear, we can translate it into that language or just translate it into better English. So without further ado, I will get started with the presentation. Anastasiia, would it be possible to start the second poll?
Yeah, sure. Just one moment, please. The second one. Yes, I started.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So it's just a short question, and it's, if you just answer as quick as you can, it will give us an idea of the different features that you would consider useful when creating a user interface for a Power BI dashboard for users that might be using multiple languages. So what that really means is it's the same dashboard, but some people will read it in English, some people will read it in French, some people will read it in another language, and the different charts and graphics and text have to change so that it can be possible for everybody to read it without having to do kind of mental translations.
Can you see the results? No? No.
So, no, I haven't got the results here. Are we having results so far?
Yeah, we have 75% no experience. Have not created such a dashboard, but maybe need in the future. And 25% some experience, created multi-language dashboard, but would prefer to have it more intuitive user experience. And for the rest is 0. Just these 2 options were selected. Yeah, now I see the percentage, they started to increase. That's between 40 for some experience and no experience 60. Okay. I hope it helps.
No, that's useful. Thank you. Okay, so I mean, for this presentation, we're not assuming a lot of previous experience doing that, but I think it's something that a lot of organizations will find relevant, hopefully. Okay, so today the different aspects of Power BI that we're going to look at are object groups and selections. So that's how you group different objects on the screen together so that they act as one, and how you can use the selections feature in Power BI when you have a lot of objects on screen in order to control how they function. After that, we're going to look at bookmarks. And I think some of you are probably familiar with bookmarks in Power BI. So bookmarks, you can save the status of the dashboard. You can save which filters are currently made, which objects are visible or invisible. And we're going to look at how you can use that to give your dashboard some flexibility. It's not just for multilingual dashboards, there are other applications, but it's the example we've chosen for this presentation. We're then going to look at buttons and actions, and that's where the interactive part comes in, which allows the user to control how the bookmarks function. And we're then going to do a small demonstration where I'll show how that could work in a very small dashboard that would be designed for the user to select the language they want to view it in. And finally, I'm just going to show some visual tips and tricks which I found helpful in kind of managing how the user interacts with the dashboard at the end and just making the experience nice and tidy. Workarounds would be a good description. So the first things first, Power BI object groups. So, I mean, it's very similar to what you have in Microsoft Word and Excel because it's the same family of products. But grouping just makes it easier to arrange the objects you have on screen to size and change the location together. So you can group them just by holding the control button when you click on each one. And then if you right click, as you can see in the little screenshot at the bottom of the slide, you can click on group and it will place them all together. Not very complicated, but it's when you then get to the other steps, it becomes much more useful if you do it with objects and groups rather than objects individually. So and just feel free to interrupt me if any questions related come up. So the second feature that then we use is the selections feature, and I think a lot of people will be familiar with this feature as well. So you can find this feature if you have Power BI on your laptop by going to the View menu and by choosing Selection, and you can see it at the top of the slide there highlighted in red. So what this allows you to do is allows you to easily select and modify objects, and it's particularly useful if you have, for visual effect, you have placed objects in an overlapping fashion, which is sometimes required. It means that you don't have to move the objects each time. You can always access the objects that are underneath, and it means you can quickly change the parameters of multiple objects and without having to locate them visually on the screen each time. So it's very, very, very useful for this purpose. What happens is in the selections, and you can see in the bottom right of the slide, beside each object, you can click on the little icon, and it allows you to make each object either visible or invisible. So where you need to have multiple versions of an object, and we're going to show an example with languages where, for example, you may have an image and the image may need to appear or disappear depending on whether it's relevant to the language of the person using the dashboard. This feature can allow us to keep the object in the dashboard but not make it visible at all times. Of course, if grouped together, the objects work much better, as you can apply the status to a whole group rather than an individual object. So bookmarks are also under the View menu. It's highlighted in red, the bookmarks. And what they do is they save the current parameters of the dashboard. So it's not the data, they don't save the data as it is on screen, but they save the filters as they are on screen, and they save the status of the different objects. So when you access the bookmarks, you can click the Add button, and that button will create a new bookmark. That bookmark will save the dashboard as it is at that moment. Any objects that were hidden will be hidden in the bookmark. Any objects which have filters will be filtered in the bookmark. And you can add as many bookmarks as you wish. Today, we're just going to have 2 bookmarks, one for English and one for French. The bookmarks can give the dashboard a dynamic appearance. They can make certain objects appear or disappear depending on the user's selections. and even depending on the user's login ID. So there's quite a lot of flexibility. One alternative situation where it could be used would be an example if you have a dashboard where one part of it has a particularly sensitive piece of information, which should be only shared with a small subset of the user group and not everyone. You could connect the bookmark to the user who logs in, and therefore certain charts or even sheets could remain hidden based upon that. So it does have a wide range of different uses, and I imagine most people will find a unique one that I've never heard of before. So the next feature that I want just to introduce in Power BI is the buttons and actions. And these two features really go together. So to insert a button, you go to Insert in the menu and you select Buttons. The appearance might not be initially as you want it, but you can just like other objects, you can control the appearance as you need. The one thing that I will highlight is the key feature of the buttons is the action function. So as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, and we'll show this in Power BI in a moment, under actions, you're able to select from a list of actions. And the one we're going to look at today is bookmark. So when the action is a bookmark, what happens is when the button is clicked, the bookmark is activated. And when the bookmark is activated, the objects on the screen will change. So that's how we're going to have the user control the interactive aspect of the dashboard. So how does this come into play then for multi-language dashboards? So the dashboards which have multi-languages require that the objects can adapt to the second language. Some objects are naturally possible to adapt. Some objects you can write formulas which control what's displayed. Other objects are less flexible, and that's why we use the bookmarks. So for an object that allows an adaptation, what you can do is you can write a formula like the one in orange on the slide, where depending on the current language selected, it will display a different piece of text. Obviously, the example is not a realistic one. It's just to have a small sentence on the slide. But it works just like this. And you can tell which parameters of objects are adaptable because they have a small fx, and you can see in the bottom right of the slide, any feature, any parameter for which you can write a formula instead of just a plain piece of text will have this fx symbol. And you can use that to replace that line of text with a field. And in orange, you can see an example of a field which can do that. Now, we're not going to look into that in detail today because we're going to focus on the bookmarks. But just to highlight that for some types of objects, it's not necessary to duplicate them and to create one for each language. You can do it this way. The reason we're going to show the bookmarks is because they work for all languages and it doesn't need a lot of coding. It's something that you can visually control on screen. And the way that it works in Power BI is, I think, impressively intuitive. Yeah. So I think that's most of what we need to say about the languages. But if you do have specific questions on the piece of code on screen, if you're kind of familiar with writing that kind of code, but you have specific questions about how that can work, I can answer those as well. Okay, so for the main method that we're going to look at today, just a quick summary of how we put it all together. You can see in the arrows, we group the objects into the relevant language. We use the selections to make them display or appear. We use the bookmarks to save that status, where they're visible or invisible. Then we use the buttons to select the status that we want. In this example, it's going to be English or French. And then the buttons have actions, which is how the buttons change the bookmarks. So that's just a little summary of how we take 5 different features of Power BI. And with no coding at all, we can create a dashboard that can display or not display objects as needed. Yeah. So just to recap the steps, we use the selections for the objects to make them visible or invisible. We create bookmarks, and we name the bookmarks after the languages. So we create a bookmark and name it after the first language. What we do then is we make all of the objects not related to that language invisible, and we store the bookmark. We then create a second bookmark for the second language. We go back to the selections and we make the objects related to that language visible, and we store our second bookmark. And one thing to remember is that it can be tricky to get all the objects to appear and disappear exactly as you want in one go. If you don't get the dashboard exactly as you want, you can always update the bookmarks later. You can always update the bookmarks by right-clicking on them and just clicking update. And I'll show you that in the demonstration now. Okay, so I'm going to switch to Power BI now, and I'm going to show how that works. Okay. I think everybody is seeing Power BI now. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so in Power BI, we have the same dashboard that Anastasiia has just used, the same data set that she has just loaded in. So on the screen, I just have two charts, two basic charts for the purposes of our demonstration. On the left, we have a chart which shows the percentage of persons in this particular survey who are located in each camp. We have 8% in Camp B and everyone else in Camp A. And then on the right, we have a small bar chart which shows the average age in each camp. We have 34 in this camp and about 26 in this one. So the data is not so important, but we can show now a few examples of how we can make a dashboard interactive and to adjust with the languages. The first thing to show is the groups. So for the groups, we can hold Control and click on both objects, and exactly the same as Microsoft Word or Excel, you can right click and select group. That will put the objects together. You can move them and resize them in one go. If you resize the group, both objects change in size. So if you have a lot of objects on the screen, it's a very useful thing to do, but you can still interact individually with the two individual objects within the group. So you're not limited in that way. The next thing that we looked at was the selections. So the selections you can find under View and Selection. As I've created a group, you can see that the two charts are in the selections also stored inside a group. Here you can choose to either hide or display the group or any individual objects within the group. It's something that Power BI does very well compared to other tools. I've also stored two images in this file as well that you can also control in the same way. So images are one of the objects that, of course, you cannot control with special measures. You can only control with bookmarks. We also looked at bookmarks. And bookmarks are also located under the View menu. Adding a bookmark is very straightforward. You click Add, and the current status of the dashboard is stored. I can demonstrate, for example, if I change which objects are displayed, and then I click the bookmark, the dashboard reverts to the status that it had when the bookmark was created. And you can name the bookmark anything you want. You can also update the bookmark, like so. And now the bookmark, when activated, will take you to the updated status. So really, it's quite an intuitive way to make the dashboard a little interactive and a little more kind of user-friendly. Now, these features, of course, you can only access as a developer. In order for the user to be able to access these features, it's necessary to create buttons. So you can create a blank button like this. And we're going to call this button English. I'm going to do some things that I'm assuming people have seen before, but you can also ask questions with them, of course, as well. If I skip over, yes?
Excuse me. I guess it's really linked to one of the questions from Emil, because he was asking how to display aggregated data. You can use, I just mentioned that you can use aggregation function. It's automatically done by Power BI, like count, sum. And I guess this is persons by com. Yes, this is a good example, this pie chart. Can you show the fields you use for this pie chart?
Sure.
Like you can do anything, the data just collected by enumerators, yes, but once you want to aggregate it, you just need to select the field and select which function you want to use. Yes, it's here. You can use sum, you can use count, you can average. For the specific field you want to display, in this case, it's a percentage of percent by comp. And it could be applied for the whole visualization. In case if it's a reply your question, please let us know. Thank you, Noel.
Oh, no problem.
And there's also a question for you, I guess.
There's another question.
Yeah, I guess by the end, but I'm not sure on which.
Okay, I might just finish showing the
Sorry, just
buttons, and then I'll come to the questions then.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, so we have a button that we've named English. So I've just given it a button text and give it the name of one of the languages. The more important feature is the actions one, which we saw in the presentation. So this is really how we connect a feature that the users can access, which is the button, to the bookmarks, which is a feature the users can't ordinarily control. So here we have a range of different options. For example, the back option will take the user back to the previous selection, but we're going to choose the bookmark option. And we're going to choose bookmark 1. In fact, to make things done in a better way, let's name the bookmark 1 English. Okay, and now we see that our English button is connected to the English bookmark. So of course we need 2 buttons. So we can create a second button. And we can label this one French. Okay, so now we have 2 buttons. What we need is 2 different bookmarks. So I'm going to create a second bookmark, and I'm going to call it French. I'm going to connect the second button to the second bookmark. Okay, so now we have the different pieces on screen that we need. So I think you can see, and please tell me if the object is too small. I'll maybe just expand the size a bit. But we have an image here which is in French. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my selections. It's not really very sensitive the order you do these things in. You can kind of do them in almost in any order. And only the French image is visible right now. You can see just one of the two. So I'm going to update my French bookmark. I'm then going to hide the French image. I'm going to display the English language image. And I'm going to update the English bookmark. Now, if it's been done correctly, when I click French, we see the French, and when I click English, we see the English. So you can do this for any number of objects on the screen. You can connect it to as many different charts as you want, and you can allow the user with these buttons to really control what they see on screen. You can go a little further with it, but I think I'm going to pause just at this point and check if we have any questions about what's been shown so far.
I didn't see any questions, but feel free to ask any.
Okay, I'll take that as everyone's following so far. I think the piece with the formula is a little more complicated, so I think if anyone's specifically interested in that, you can let us know in the chat, but otherwise we'll stick to the visual method. If you want to go a little bit further, just to finish it off, of course, just to make sure. Yes, so I can answer that definitively, Emil. Yes, the bookmark also saves filters. And Inge is interested in the formula part. Okay, so I can show that as well. I will just say that what I usually do with the bookmarks is rather than display two of them on screen at the time if I'm running out of space, what I will do is when we're looking at the English version, I'll make the button for English disappear. And when we're looking at the French version, I'll make the version for French disappear. That way you only need to have one object appear on screen. Okay, so I'll just answer the questions then. For Emil's question, yes, filters are also saved, and I can do a quick example of that now, and I'll do it with a formula as Inge is suggesting, so you can see that quickly for anyone who's interested in that. For Emily's question, Emily mentions that she used those buttons for multiple pages. Would I have to add one of those buttons on each page, or would the button selection mean select even moving to different pages? That should work across all pages, Emily. I think you just need the button on one page. The example I did it with was a one-page dashboard. In fact, I can just demonstrate now. So right now we have French on the duplicate page, and if I click English, I've done something unexpected. I think I've broken my demonstration doing that. Okay. Don't worry about that, but yes, it will go on to multiple pages. If I want to show a filter that works in the same way, what I can do is I can create a small table. Demonstrate, and if we use a filter, we can put in the filter the field I've just created in the table. We select English here, we store, and we select French. When we store, we can see that when we move between the bookmarks, the selections change as well. So it works in exactly the same way for the filters as it does for the object appearances. For the formula part, what you can do, I can share the formulas as well. What you can do is you can create some measures. It's not necessary to remember exactly what I'm typing here. I can save it straight after. But I store one measure which refers to this field, and I store another measure that will change the title based upon that field. And what I can do then is if I pick an object, I can go to the title of that object. And as we talked about in the presentation, where normally you type the title, you can click the FX button and you can create a more customized title. So what I'm doing here is I'm selecting title, which I've created as a calculation. And in the title, I'm saying if the language is English, display average age. And if the language is French, display âge moyen. It's looking to this selected language field, which is a calculated field. And this is looking to the field selected in your filter. So what that means now is that when you change the language with the button, it changes in the graph. And when you change the language with the filter, it changes in the graph too. And of course, if you wish, you can hide the filter and it will still work. But if you hide the filter, you of course have to reset your bookmarks. So that's how that works, and that's how you can control either with a formula or simply with the selection appearing and disappearing the different objects on the dashboard. Are there any further questions on that part, or should I move on to the last smaller topic?
I guess you can move on to the smaller topic, and
Okay.
then we'll finish in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Inga. And if you have follow-up questions on it, let us know. I will, of course, share each of the little mini scripts that was used to create that filter chart. Okay, so I'll just change my screen share now. So the final topic that I also wanted just to mention briefly is that with Power BI, the default is that users can click on any object, and when they click on any object, it will make a selection on that object. You can control this, and you can control it on an object by object basis. The way you can do this is by clicking on Format as shown on the slide and selecting Edit Interactions. When you do this, every object on the screen will have 3 small symbols beside it. And if you click this symbol on the right, the object will no longer interact. What that means is that the object will no longer filter when another object has a filter applied to it. In theory, it works very well. If you have a lot of objects on the screen, it's extremely tedious to break every connection between every object. If you have 5 objects on the screen, you have 20 connections. It's not one setting per object, it's one setting per connection between objects on the screen. So just to highlight that this can be done, and if you only have a few charts, this is a very good way to do that. However, I found that for objects at dashboards with a lot of objects on the screen, there's a very crude workaround. And what I simply do is I create a text box and I expand the text box across the screen, and I cover any charts that I don't want the user to select. And in the settings of the text box, I go to background and I click off. And what this means is that the user can no longer click on the chart if it's not supposed to be a chart that they can use to filter. Now, ideally, you want to allow them to filter as many charts as possible, so you shouldn't overuse it. But there are some charts that have complicated formulas in which users can click on and then find it difficult to undo their selections. So I can just show very quickly on Power BI, as I know we're running out of time, what I mean. If, for example, I want to allow the users to interact with the top part of the screen, to use the buttons and to use the filters, but not to be able to click on the charts on the bottom. In this case, you probably wouldn't want to do that, but for demonstration purposes, what you can do is you can create a text object, you can cover those charts, you can go to Visualizations, and you can turn the background off. The charts now appear exactly as before. You can see the title still updates as exactly as before, but the user is no longer able to make selections. So if you do have a large number of charts and the selections on each chart are not compatible with each other, this is one object which you can do to really ensure that that's completely impossible. Okay, so I think I've covered all of the topics to the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Noel. Just to mention that actually this background I use a lot in case, for example, if I have a huge Power BI report in the 5 module and it's very difficult to see the interaction on each in the charts, I just cover and not allow the user to interact it. Yeah, I found it this part is super useful and in general. Thank you.
Good. Well, it was very insightful. Thank you. If you have any question, maybe you can ask directly to Noel and Anastasiia on the private chat on the events platform. I hope it was useful for you guys. And thank you very much for attending this workshop, and see you soon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.